Based on the method of taxation, we have two kinds of taxes, that is the direct tax and the indirect tax. Now, let us talk about the indirect tax first. As per the definition, an indirect tax is a tax collected by an intermediary, such as a retail store or a shopkeeper or the service provider, from the person who bears the ultimate economic burden of the tax, that is, the customer or the people by themselves. An indirect tax is one that can be shifted by the taxpayer to someone else, and an indirect tax may increase the price of a good so that consumers are actually paying the tax by paying more for the product. Now, what does all these jargon definition mean here? Let us discuss that in detail. An indirect tax is a tax imposed on the product or services. Imposed on the product, on the product or the services. Unlike the income tax, that is the direct tax, where the tax has been imposed on the income of the person, this tax, this indirect tax, gets imposed on the product or the service that's being consumed by the consumer here. This is imposed on the product or the service. This tax is collected, this tax is collected by the service or the product provider, service or the product provider, product provider. In case of direct tax, it was the government which was collecting the tax. Here, it is being collected by the service or the product provider. That means you go to the market, you purchase a kind of a product. Let us say you purchase a shampoo, and you pay the tax as well as the amount of shampoo to the shopkeeper himself, and this particular tax amount is being retained by the shopkeeper. Now let's see the third thing, which says there is a choice. You don't buy the product, you need not pay the tax. So we say you have a choice, you have a choice whether to pay a tax or not, whether to pay the indirect tax, pay tax or not. In case of indirect tax, it simply means that if you don't want to purchase or if you don't want to pay the tax, kindly do not buy the particular product. In that case, you'll be saved from paying the tax. And in case of indirect tax, we have already seen that whether you want to pay it or not, you have to pay that tax. That was an essential tax. Another thing about indirect tax is it can be shifted, can be shifted, can be shifted. Now, what does this shift means? Let us say you have a person here. Let us give him a name, Aditya. Okay. Now this guy Aditya is a, let's say it's a pen manufacturer, pen manufacturer, manufacturer, and he has this factory where he manufactures the pen. This is the factory, and he has several employees with him. Let us say these all guys are his employees. Okay. Now, if Aditya has been charged with an indirect tax, let us say the government comes and say, okay, Aditya, you have purchased this much of raw material, and on this much of raw material, I want to have 4% of VAT, which is an indirect tax, okay, which comes out to be, let us give it a value of, let's say, 1000 of rupees. Okay. Now Aditya will do a simple thing in factory to purchase to manufacture these pan. If the cost was to manufacture was, let us say, 10,000 of rupees. Okay, let's say the manufacturing cost was 10,000 of rupees. He'll simply do one thing. He'll add this 1,000 of rupees into this value, and we'll say now the manufacturing cost is 11,000 of rupees, and accordingly the pen price, let's say initially he was making uh, 1000 pens. Initially there were 1000 pens, then the cost was 10 rupees per pen. Now the same pen will cost 11 rupees. Now the same pen will cost 11 rupees to Aditya, or to the consumer who was purchasing this pen. Hence, we can say this value of the tax which was initially being incurred on Aditya, which was 1000 rupees, which was incurred on Aditya, he has shifted this particular tax onto the consumers who are purchasing this pen from 10 rupees to 11 rupees now. So this is shifting of tax. Another thing regarding indirect tax is it is regressive in nature. It is regressive in nature, unlike the direct tax which was progressive in nature. Now let us see what does this regressive word mean here. Regressive means no matter the amount of tax, that is, no matter the taxable amount increases or decreases, your amount of tax will remain the same. The amount of tax will remain the same, will remain the same, no matter whether the taxable amount increases or decreases. To give you an example, let you buy let a person okay, there are two guys here, one person named as Nikki, and there's another fellow named as Geetam. Now these two ladies, okay, there are two ladies here. Nikki is poor and Geetam is rich. Now what happens in case of indirect tax here? Now both of these girls goes to a grocery shop. Okay, this is a grocery shop where you can purchase all the grocery items, and they both of them purchased a total grocery of, let us say, 1000 rupees. 1000 of rupees, and out of those 1000, 900 is the amount of actual grocery, and plus 100 is the amount of tax on it. This is the indirect tax. Okay, now this was the bifurcation of grocery, and Nikki had 10,000 of rupees in her hand, and Geetam had, let us say, 1 lakh of rupees. I've already mentioned that one of them is poor and another one is rich. Now what will happen? Let us see here. Nikki purchased this particular grocery item and paid 100 rupees as tax. Now, what is the amount of tax actually? What is the percentage amount of tax that she has paid out of her total pocket money that she had? Let us see here. 10,000 and 100 rupees as the tax amount, which comes out to be 100, 10, 100 equal to 1%. Now, what's the amount Geetam has paid when she went to purchase the same kind of grocery items? So she also paid 100 rupees into tax, and out of her total income was 1 lakh. So 1 lakh. Let's see the percentage amount that Geetam has paid. Okay, so this comes out to be 0.1%. So the rich person, that is Geetam, has paid only 0.1% of tax, and Nikki, who was poor, has paid 1% of tax. So it is kind of an It's kind of an opposite tax regarding in the case of progressive tax, where the person who was rich was paying more and the person who was poor was paying less. Here it is totally opposite. Here the poor person pays more and the rich person pays less. Now this is the kind of indirect tax that we have talked about, the regressive tax. Now let's see the examples of regressive taxes, that is the indirect taxes, popular in many countries. Okay, the examples of indirect taxes. Indirect taxes. The most famous ones would be the custom duty. The custom duty, which in itself is of two types, the import duty and the export duty. The export duty. Here, if you import an item from abroad to your own country, the custom department will charge an amount as tax, that the government will charge an amount as tax called as import duty, and when you are exporting some kind of product out of the country, then export duty is being charged, and this is called as indirect tax here. Another example could be my Another example here I will take it to be the excise duty. The excise duty. This particular duty or this particular tax has been imposed on the manufacturer of items inside the country. Another kind of indirect tax which is very popular is VAT, that is value added tax. That is the value added added tax. Now how this particular tax work? It is generally said to be whenever there's an addition of value in the product, addition of value in the product, this particular tax will be imposed on that particular item. Okay, this is VAT, which is ultimately being given by the customer. He is being imposed, okay, with this particular tax. Another very famous tax is your service tax. Service tax. You Whenever you provide a service to the particular whenever you whenever whenever you provide services to a customer, you charge service tax, and that has to be given to the government on a later date. Another famous one is your security security transaction tax. It is on the purchase of securities or mutual funds or some kind of shares in the share market. So it is also famous by this short form STT. This acronym is very famous for this particular tax. And another famous taxes could be your road tax, luxury tax, entertainment tax are kind of taxes which are very famous and comes under this indirect tax regime. I hope it was valuable video for you. Thanks for watching.